fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. We are back. 2020. Captain. Pastor Johnny Kelly. I had a call with a captain. You might as well be a captain.
I captain the ship. We are fishers of men here.
Yes.
And it's good to be back, man. It's been a few weeks.
Yes.
Christmas, New Year's. I've been doing what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. And so my life's been insane. And so it is very cool to be back with all the Salt Strong people, man. I love it.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, you could see Johnny is in a brand new background, and that's a new church, which we will talk about. I want to kick this off real quick. It's going to talk about dreams, and I really want to hammer the problem home right off the bat because I believe there are many of you listening, and I know because I've been through this, Johnny's been through it, and it's usually fear holding us back from pursuing our dream. And I firmly believe that if you do not pursue your dream, you are stealing from yourself, you are stealing from God, and you're stealing from the world. And I really mean that. I mean, if God put you on this earth for a reason, which I believe he did, and every one of us has some unique gift, and if we're not using it, then there's no other way to look at it, but you're flat out stealing from, once again, from yourself and from what God gave you as a gift to really the whole world. The world needs you, whether you think it's small or insignificant, or if it's crazy big and super scary. The world needs your gift. And the only way to do that is to really pursue and follow your dreams through all the pain, through all the scariness. And that's really going to be the focus of this podcast episode. And it's perfect timing, right? It's the beginning of the year. Everyone's kind of excited about change. And this is a time that we all do a lot of dreaming, really, right, John? I mean, this is like probably the month of the biggest dreams out there. And yet we all know, based on stats, that the vast majority of us start something in 2020 or whatever the year is, and then by the end of the year, it's completely forgotten, and it's no longer a dream. It's just
at the end of the week.
Yes.
This is January 1st is the day of the biggest amount of dreaming possible in America. That's at least our culture. And I would say by January 7th, it's like some of the deadest dreams. I mean, it is amazing. You go to a gym the first week of January and it's just slam packed. That is, January 1st is a gym's Christmas, not December 25th.
Yes.
Like they're like, yes, it's January 1st. We got a bunch of people coming. They're going to pay us for the next 3 years, but they're only going to come twice. They're going to sign a contract. We got them. It is funny, this whole season that we just came through is a time that we try to dream, but it's also a time that it's a sort of weird dichotomy because it's also a time that we like to relax, as much as we can. Christmas is not like a really relaxing holiday. If you're a parent, it is chaotic, but we still try and find those moments. You take some vacation time, you try and sleep in, you take a break here and there, you end up relaxing. And the problem is that you end up relaxing on everything. And it's not a problem. Like we need time off. We need to relax. We need that. But it's not the time, I believe, to relax on our purpose in life. That we don't relax on this moment about why we were on this planet, like that you were put here. The Bible says that you were made on purpose and with a purpose, that before you were even formed in your mother's womb, that God said, I have a plan for you. I made you to do something. And I'll say this, I've said it before, but like every one of you that's watching, listening, whatever, you're a 10 at something. Like you are better than anybody at something. Like God made you on purpose and for purpose. And if you haven't found that purpose, I'd love to help you find it. But like the fact is that there is a reason for you. And so this isn't a time to relax on that purpose, but to say, you know what, I think it's really a good time to sort of define the dreams that God's placed in your heart. Whenever you get those times of slowdown, that's a really good time to actually define what those dreams are and to figure it out. You know, I think there's nothing, as a pastor, I tell this to my church that as a pastor, I'm not scared about people that come to my church that screw up, like that make mistakes. Like, I have no problem with that. All of us do it. I do it. We all screw up. And so that's not the scary part. The thing that scares me the most is when we put our dreams and our relationship with God on cruise control. When we just sort of go, I'm going to push a button. It's like this. You see those videos with the Tesla drivers that fall asleep in the car? Have you seen those? Like because it has an autopilot. I watched a video the other day, and there's like this husband and wife. I'm assuming husband and wife, a guy and a girl in a Tesla in California, and they're just like just out cold going down the highway at 70 miles an hour, which is terrifying. But we do the same thing with our dreams, with our relations. There was a dream we had. We all had dreams when we were kids, but we get caught up with things. Those dreams we end up putting them aside and ignoring them. You ever see the movie Bucket List? Do you ever see that?
Yep.
I love that movie. If you haven't seen it, it's actually where I didn't know this. That's actually where the term bucket list came from. The movie didn't steal the term. The term came from the movie. If you look at least every research I've found, if somebody finds that I'm wrong there, I apologize. But everything that I found says that actually that term came from the movie. And so the bucket list was Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson, and they're both dying of cancer, and they're in the hospital together. And one of them's rich and one's poor, and they decide that they're going to write a list of things they want to do before they kick the bucket list. And if you watch the movie, the coolest thing is that the stuff that everybody would first put on the list, the exciting things, the cool things, the crazy things, are never the ones that fulfill them the most. It's the ones where they're affecting other people's lives, when they're making a difference in other people. Those are the ones that change their lives. And so for me, I wrote a bucket list a few years ago. Another pastor friend was like, John, you need to do this, write a list. And I keep it on my computer, and I've got probably about 50, 60 items on there and that I rotate through, and and I get to check some of them off, which is really, really cool. I'm sitting in one of my bucket list items right now that I was able to check off in the last month, which is this room here, which is one of the coolest things. But whenever you get to sort of go through and check off these things, like I have, let me see here. I wrote a few of them down. And some of them are really, personal and just fun, and some are very deep and spiritual. Like I want to fish in Costa Rica. I want to fish in Australia. There's a lot of fishing. There's a lot of places I want to fish. Yeah. I want to go to a Super Bowl that the Cowboys are playing in. Because I was born in Dallas. I'm a huge Cowboys fan, and I know I'm making a lot of hate. I feel the visceral reaction. I want to see my 8-year-old son Arliss. He dreams of being a pastor. Like, he wants to be a pastor. He wants to preach. One of my bucket list items is to watch my son preach his first sermon. Like, I can't wait to do that. One of my other ones, I want to go. I love going on mission trips and going around the world and traveling and telling people about the love of Jesus. And I can't wait to go to a place where I get to share Jesus with somebody that's never heard of him. I've been on a lot of mission trips, but everybody I go to, every place I've gone, they've heard of Jesus. They know who he is. They might not know everything about him or anything like that, but they've heard of Jesus. They've heard of church. But there are places on this planet where people don't know, and that's one of the coolest things in the world. And so, it is when you start dreaming about your life, whenever you sit down and you go, I'm going to pray, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to think about the dreams that I have in my life. Something happens, Joe, like that is weird, which is that attention is created in your life. Because what will happen inevitably is you will have a dream pop into your head that you don't think is possible, that you don't think is like, that would never happen. That's an impossibility. There's no way that happens. And so you have this tension that will form as to, well, do I put the audacious, crazy dream on my list, or do I leave it off since it's never going to happen anyways?
And you think it's the fear that like someone's going to see it and make fun of you, or is it the
I
fear
don't
that you're not
know.
going to accomplish it? Or
I think it's just a built-in fear to us, because people don't look at my list. I mean, I shared with you guys a few of them, but like nobody looks at my list. Nobody's going to see it.
I'm gonna find it, dude.
No, you go for it. You will be wholly unimpressed. I do have that I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro on there. I could put Mount Everest, and that's a little more audacious.
Dude, I know some good Sherpas, dude.
Yeah, it's too cold, man. Mount Kilimanjaro is in Africa, and it's warmer, and I'd rather do that one. But it becomes the idea of like, do you do it? The tension is, do you put the crazy audacious dream down, and do you actually do that? And my answer is absolutely yes. You always, if you're doing your best to live life right and follow after God's heart and to live a life according to his plan, that when you have an audacious, crazy dream, you absolutely put it down on your list. Because here's what happens when you have a crazy dream, a dream that you think is impossible, and you actually write it down and go, I'm putting this on my list that I want to do it. You're going to start living differently. You'll start praying differently. And the fact is that when we are putting down stuff on our list that's crazy, and we are also trying our best to live a life that honors God, we serve a God that loves to fulfill those kind of dreams. He loves to do it. I know for me and my wife, like 6 or 7 years ago, we had just had our first son, and we wanted. I was traveling and speaking at the time. I was traveling all over the country, and I was preaching, telling people about Jesus. And that's what I did for a living. And so I was gone all the time, back and forth, home, gone, home, gone. And I'm newly married. I have a new baby, and I wanted to stay home. And I felt like the need that it was time for me to start stepping back into regular ministry as a pastor somewhere. And I had never been the lead pastor of a church, the head guy. I'd always been like a youth pastor or, an associate pastor. And we started interviewing I started interviewing at churches all over the country, trying to find the next place I was going to go to, because I wanted to be home with my family. And in that process, God put a dream in me and my wife's heart, which was to plant Discover Family Church in Lakeland, Florida. Put this dream in our heart that said, hey, I have put something inside of you, Johnny, that I want to share with the people of Lakeland and the people of Central Florida. Like, I put something in there for them, and I want you to do this instead of going and working for somebody else. I want you to work for me. That's what God was saying. I want to be your boss. I don't want some other person to be your boss. I want to be your boss. And it was the scariest moment in my life, because I was like, oh no, like that's a big deal. This is God's church. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to mess somebody else's life up. But he kept putting it in my heart, this dream that seemed out of reach, like the idea of starting a church, that seems crazy to most people. Like, where do you start? And I remember sitting, like, finally going, okay, let's do this. And I called just a handful of friends and had them come over we were living in a little condo at the time. We owned a house that we had rented out because we were dumb and made dumb decisions, and we rented it out to somebody else because we thought we were moving away. And so then we're sitting in this little rented condo 2 miles from the home we own. And I invited friends over to tell them about this idea. And that was, 7 years ago. September 7th, 2014, we had our very first service for Discover Family Church. Had about 175, 180 people show up. And here we are almost 6 years later, 5.5 years later. And we've seen a few hundred people come to start a relationship with God through the church. Well over 100 people have been baptized. We have, tons of people that serve in different areas of the church and in the community, small groups that happen around the city. And this past Sunday, I was able to scratch something off my bucket list, which was the dream of us as a church. Because the first 5 years we were portable, which means we set up our entire church every Sunday and tore it down every Sunday. We met at the YMCA in North Lakeland, which is hard because when you're building a stage, a sound system, lighting system, all your kids' facilities, all your signs, everything is put up and torn down every week. And this past Sunday, we had our very first service in this room that I'm sitting in right now. I'm on the stage of our church. We have a building that's ours 7 days a week that we don't have to set up or tear down in. And it was all because of this crazy, audacious dream 7 years ago that has led to multiple other dreams since then. The dream that you have that seems crazy to you is not crazy to God. He is big enough to handle that. He is big enough to give you what you want, and wants to do that. He wants to see you get that. But here's the cool thing: is that's not the end game for him either. Is that dream leads to that? I mean, Joe, let me ask you: when you guys had the dream to start Salt Strong, because it was a dream. You guys were like, man, I want to work. I want to do this. You didn't have clarity on what it was all going to look like. And if I would have told you exactly what it looked like today, 7-8 years ago, you'd be like, whoa, that's not even the thought process. It might have been like some of the thoughts, but it's a different beast than what you expected. Yeah. But how many times as you got from the time you got the dream to now, have there been new dreams that have popped up for Salt Strong? Like, how often does that change for you guys? I mean, is it pretty regular, I would assume? That there's always new dreams that are coming.
Yes. Maybe daily. No, it seems like that. Absolutely. And a quote that Tony Robbins said that reminded me of kind of what you've been through, and what you said, 7 years.
Yeah. 7 years.
So, Tony always says that the average person overestimates how much they can get done in a year. Like right now, we always have these crazy goals. I'm going to do all this in the next year. And we continue to get let down because we usually try to put too much on our plate. So we overestimate how much we can get done in a year. And we always underestimate how much we can do in a decade. Right. I mean, think about how much you've done. You still got 3 years left. I mean, we've been around we just celebrated 5 years. I mean, to your point, never in a million years we thought we'd be here, but me, anyone who's pursuing what we feel like we're called to do in life, you take one step at a time. And some of the steps are scarier than others, like, starting your own church or all of a sudden putting money down to have your own building. I mean, those are scary steps. And yet every time you do one, you feel like, man, another doors keep opening up. And you look back, and it has been a couple of years like, oh my gosh, I accomplished so much just by following that dream and listening to your heart and listening to God. It really is amazing how much you can get done in a longer period of time. And I think that was always my struggle too, is like, oh man, we want to do all this by the end of this date. And a lot of times that's not exactly God's calendar.
No. Well, and here's the deal. Dreams, and I'll bring it on a spiritual side. Dreams are the language that God speaks to us. And they're the language that God speaks to us. It says, if you go to the second chapter of Acts in the Bible, it says that in the last days, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Like I will pour myself as God. I will pour myself out on people. And then it says how he's going to do it. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. This is how God communicates with us. If somebody ever said, like, if you ever told me, like, I've never heard the audible voice of God, like God's never spoken to me. Had you had a dream in your life that was honoring to God? Like, I dream that I'm going to do this. And it's this thing that this dream that I have in my life is something that honors God. If you've had that, then you've heard the voice of God. Like it is amazing. But like it says right there, like, hey, you're going to dream dreams. Like I'm going to speak to you through these things in your life. I mean, he talks to us that way, and they're the language of what we that he likes to speak to us. The dreams that we have are in order to have faith, you have to have a dream. because dreams are the target of your faith. Like faith is something that like the Bible says like this. The Bible says like faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, which sounds confusing. Like if I'll use the Johnny version of the Bible here. It means that faith is realizing, understand, or thinking, or dreaming the dreams for the things that you hope for, and then aiming at them, having the confidence that you serve a God, that you live with a God that is big enough to handle that, to get you to the place that you target. Dreams just have whenever you have a God honoring dream, when you're doing your best to live for God and to do things right, and you dream dreams, they have a habit of coming true. They just do. I remember, I was looking through or my Facebook, like gives you the memories or whatever, and saw a memory yesterday from 11 years ago. 11 years ago today, I was sitting in a hospital room with my wife, Sarah. No, she was not my wife yet. I was in my 30s before I met my wife. Like I by that point, I had the dream of finding somebody I was going to marry was gone. I was like, I'm going to be alone. I'll just be single. Like that's what I thought. We both had thought that. We were both in our 30s and we're like, it's done. And then God brought me Sarah and said, hey, I've found the perfect person for you. And within like a couple of months of us starting to date, she got real sick. And I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but she got real sick and ended up in the hospital, dying of liver failure. Her organs started shutting down. She went through a couple of dozen blood transfusions, was in the ICU for like 3.5 weeks over at Tampa General. And today is the day. Last night, 11 years ago, was the night that I sat in that room and talked to a doctor. And a doctor told me she's number one on the UNOS list to get a transplant for a new liver. And if we don't get one tonight, she will be dead in the morning.
Wow.
Like they didn't pull any punches. They just laid it out. And I wasn't allowed to stay in the room. I wasn't her husband. And in fact, nobody was allowed to stay overnight, I believe. I believe they did end up letting her mom stay overnight at one point. But I drove home from Tampa General that night, praying a lot, because God had given me a dream. Like he'd given me a dream of a wife that would love me and would care for me, and that I could love and I could care for, that I could protect and take care of, that would be the better half to me, that would be on my journey with me, and I would be on her journey with her, that I could celebrate wins, and somebody that would be there to lift me up whenever I failed. And I just started to see this dream come true, and then a doctor told me that it was going away. Like I don't know if you've ever felt that, like this moment when like the dream was just lost.
And,
like
and did you
gone
in that short amount of time of dating? Did you just know it was her? Like you're like,
yeah,
God,
yeah.
like
We'd already had that conversation, and it was weird because it wasn't emotional. It wasn't. I mean, yeah, there's emotions involved, but it wasn't like it wasn't all wrapped in our emotions. It was, we just knew. Like we started dating, and immediately, like if you ask her now, she'll tell you, like if I'd asked her to marry me on the second date, she would have said yes. Like it was just, we just knew. Like it was like, okay, I'm supposed to be with you. You're supposed to, like, we were made, we fit. We're perfect together, and it just worked. And then he said she was going to die. And I remember the next morning driving to the hospital because I hadn't heard anything all night. And her parents had said if they hear about anything happening, they would call me. I had not gotten a call from the hospital or from her parents. Couldn't get a hold of anybody. And so I drove to Tampa General and was fully expecting, because I hadn't heard that she was going in for a transplant. And I would have gotten that call had she been going in for a transplant. And I fully expected to walk into a room with Sarah being dead. Like I fully expect, that's what I expected. I'm walking in, it was this, this, dead man walking feel. Like I'm just walking down this hallway, just distraught because I felt like this dream was being ripped away from me. And I remember opening the door. And as I opened the door, I look at my wife, who the day before was, her liver completely stopped working. She was this jaundiced. She was yellow like a banana the day before, just completely yellow because she was jaundiced. And I opened the door, and my beautiful wife is sitting there, pink and normal looking, and she's sitting up and she's laughing. And the doctor looked at me and said, "I don't know what happened." And I said, "I do. I understand completely what happened. That I serve a God that wants to see my dreams come true. This was his dream for me. This wasn't my dream for me." And so often we ignore the crazy dreams because we think it's all us. But when we live a life that's honoring to God, those dreams are not you. God, before you were born, created you for those things. And so for 30 years, I thought I was going to be alone. And then all of a sudden he gave me my person. And he was not about to let that dream die in that moment. And so it is amazing how often that when we understand that and have faith in that moment. And I was terrified that night. I still prayed because I still had faith that I served a God that was big enough to heal her, to take care of her, that she would be okay.
And did was it a modern day miracle? Like what?
It was completely a miracle. They don't know. It just her liver started working.
Wow. And she's
after 3 weeks,
still alive today. And
she's still alive today. Everything's good. She had some complications for about a year and a half. She had to go through some chemo and different things like that, not because of cancer. It wasn't cancer, but it caused some other things in her life. But eventually those all went away. The idea of liver failure still terrifies her to this day because it was a terrifying experience. But in the end, she's fine. They were worried that we wouldn't have kids because of it. And we have 3 incredible boys that are just the light of our lives. Like we love them to death, all these different things, these dreams that we had that we thought were dying in that moment. Cause it wasn't just one dream that we thought, it wasn't just the dream of the woman that I love going away. It was the dream of the future. Here's what it was. It was the dream of hope for something better, for something bigger, for something more, because that's really what dreams are for us. Even if your dream is something as simple as I want to go fish in Costa Rica, that's not what the dream is. The dream is the hope of something bigger and something greater. You want to go have an experience. You want to have this moment in time. And that's really what the dreams are. I fully believe and see, so often we allow the world and what's happening around us to distract us from the dreams that we have in our life. We go, we have these dreams as kids, but we end up abandoning them as adults because that could never happen. Or all this other stuff is happening in the world. I can't dream about that. But the fact is that and it goes back to what you talked about at the very beginning, which is that the reason so many of us walk away from our dreams, I believe, is that we have a wrong view of ourselves. Just like we overestimate the year and we underestimate the decade, we have a wrong view of ourselves. And I'm going to tell this to every single person listening. God sees greatness in you, even if you don't see it yourself. In the Bible, King David, and we've all heard of David and Goliath. Everybody in the world, when they looked at David, saw a shepherd boy. They saw a young boy that wasn't important, so much so that even his dad didn't think he was important. Like if you read the story, whenever they came to find the new king and they came to Jesse, David's father, and they asked him, "Hey, where are your sons?" He brought all of his sons to the prophet except for David, because even his own father didn't think that David could be the king. But when others saw a shepherd boy, God saw a king. And what I'm going to tell you right now, that the dreams that you think are too big in your life, that you're scared, that you're too afraid to run after this new year. God sees greatness in you that you don't see in yourself. We don't see things as they are in this world. A lot of times we see things as we are, or as we think we are. And we need to learn to see ourselves the way that God sees us. God doesn't see you as a mistake. He doesn't look at you and immediately think of the things that you've done wrong. He doesn't look at you and think of the things that hold you back. He looks at you and sees that same person that he had a plan for before you were born. And so I encourage you with this new year, don't follow the script that the world gives you. Don't say, well, that's just who I am. No, it's not who you are. You are who God says you are. And God says that you are a child of God, that you have a hope and that you have a future. You have dreams that he gave you, and he wants to see them come out in a big way. And so I encourage you this new year, go for your dreams, man. Go big.
Yes.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, and I'm going to end it on a short story here. And I believe on that same note, God doesn't care what degree you have. And I met someone recently and telling him what I did, and he's working pretty hard labor, crappy job. And he knows it. I know it. And he's like, man, I wish I could do what you're doing. And I was like, what's stopping you, man, from even working from home? And not necessarily saying you got to quit your job and start your own company, but just doing something that's more fun than what you're doing. And he's like, oh man, I don't have a college degree. I can't. Who cares? And I'm gonna tell you guys a funny story that I haven't really shared, and I still remember it vividly, because it was the day that fear set in that I was doing the wrong thing at pursuing Saltron. The dream was too big, and we were in Atlanta. I was in a boardroom with the guys who had bought my old company. So it was already sold. I was now basically just getting paid to live and show up like a couple times a month to be a consultant. It was a pretty easy job. I was so unfulfilled, it wasn't funny. And I think a lot of times if you're feeling unfulfilled, that is a sign that you're not doing what God has led you to do, that you're not pursuing that thing. Maybe it's a scary dream, whatever it is. And I finally telling these guys what I'm going to do. I'm basically walking away from this company they just bought, and I'm walking away from a guaranteed salary for at least a couple of years. And I remember telling them that I was like, yeah, Luke and I are going to start Salt Strong. We're going to teach fishing and, get people together through fishing. And I remember the look on their faces and they were just like, so what are you going to do? And this one guy, his name Jason, was in there, and he goes, well, so like who are you guys going to hire? Like, who's going to be your fishing captains and guides to teach all this stuff? And I hadn't really thought that far. I was like, well, Luke and I are. And he's like, well, like, why would anyone listen to you guys? And dude, like fear, like I remember where I was sitting. I remember his face, and like, he's now trying to help me out. He's like, well, man, I know some good guides I can connect you with, and they can help you out. And I was like, wow, like we're not qualified to do this. And fast forward today, I won't bore you with all the details in between, but 5 years later, I'm still not a captain. Luke's still not a captain. No one on our team is a captain. And yet we have now millions of people a month are watching our stuff, interacting, and even paying us for coaching. And yeah, we have brought some captains on, but I tell you all that to say it's never going to be the perfect time. You're never going to be qualified enough.
No.
You're never going to be qualified enough. And there's always going to be someone who puts that seed of doubt in your head, like that guy. And he meant no harm. He genuinely liked me and was trying to help. He was not trying to like punch me down, but it could be your own family members or someone you truly love or loves you back that puts that seed of doubt and crushes that dream. And I mean, had I taken his advice and said, yeah, man, this is a mistake, we probably shouldn't do this, no one's going to listen to Luke and I, you would never be hearing this right now. Salt Strong would never exist. We never would have impacted all those people. So I tell you, there's never, ever a perfect time. You'll never be ready. You'll never be ready, right? No one gave you, you didn't go to school to learn how to run a church. Like no one.
There's no school for that.
No, like you're never ready. You're never going to be qualified enough. You have to get out there and do it and follow the dream. So.
Yeah. A God-sized dream is always going to seem risky. It's always going to be a leap of faith. It's not easy. God doesn't roll easy. It's a leap of faith, man. And I encourage you, man, get that feeling with your dream, that feeling of, oh my God, if you don't open the parachute, I'm a goner. and and still jump and go, hey, I'm going to let you handle it and let God do it, and here you might fall and mess up sometimes. But here's the deal. Nobody's ever fallen standing still. That doesn't generally happen. You fall when you're moving somewhere. That when you're walking, you're heading forward, that's when you fall. And when you fall forward and just keep going for the dreams. Don't let the fact that other people think it's scary throw you off, and just have faith, man.
And it better be big. Your mission and your dream, it better be bigger than the pain, because you're going to go through some. I mean, it ain't easy, but man, it is so fulfilling, so rewarding. So know that if your dream is not scaring you, then you need to dream bigger. So
that's cool. Right.
Johnny, I know we said we're going to keep it shorter this time. We definitely did. Our goal here is, I don't think we put the timer, but a little over 30 minutes. We're going to try to keep it 30 minutes or less on these Unchurched. So guys, thank you so much. Please do subscribe to the podcast. It helps us out tremendously, keeps this sucker ad-free. Definitely go check out Pastor Johnny's new church. What's the website and everything?
DiscoverFamilyChurch.com. And if you want to check it out, it's right in front of the Lakeland Square Mall. We're right in front of the old Sears building, 4120 US Highway 98 North. We would love to see you Sundays at 10 a.m.
Excellent. And any more ideas, thoughts, hit us up. I'm Joe at saltstrom.com and Johnny at
Johnny at DiscoverFamilyChurch.com.
Okay, cool. And we'll put it in the show notes. You can see all the old episodes at saltstrong.com/unchurched. We be out. We'll see you on the next week.
Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fish in our soul.